So welcome to Shorab's classes. So in today's video we'll be talking about international economics. So we'll be focusing on the topic of assumptions of factor equalization theorem. So in today's video we'll be focusing on the assumptions of factors equalization theorem. So we'll be focusing on the assumption of factor equalization theorem. So factor equalization theorem. So we'll be talking about the assumptions of factors equalization theorem. So there are mainly three assumptions that we'll be focusing on. The first assumption basically talks about the incomplete specialization. The first assumption talks about incomplete special. So what is incomplete specialization? Incomplete specialization is what? It is basically when both countries produce both goods. This assumption was made while deriving the wage and rental rates from price of clothes and food. So for this we need to remember what? Both countries produce both goods. This is a assumption was made while deriving the wage and rental rates from the prices of clothes and food. So it was when we were deriving W and R from what? W and R from the prices of when we are deriving it from the prices of food and clothes, we have talked about the incomplete specialization. So now what it actually tells, so for this first of all we need to draw a diagram, then it will be easier for you to understand if you draw a simple diagram. So in this diagram the diagram will be looking like this. It basically shows the relationship between the factor prices, which is W by R, and the price of goods, which is PC by PF. So it shows the relationship between PC by PF and W by R. It looks like this, which is SS. So this is what? This is basically one-to-one relationship between factor prices and the commodity prices. So this is a one-to-one relationship between factor prices factor prices and commodity prices. So now we'll explain the concept here. So in this, a country with a high ratio of labor to land might produce only cloth, while a country with a very high ratio of land to labor might produce only food, implying complete specialization, as in the case of Ricardian one-factor model. So as in the case of Ricardian one-factor model, when a country with a higher ratio of labor to land, what happens with a higher ratio of labor to land? Might produce only cloth, might plus you produce only cloth, while a country with a very high ratio of land to labor, might only produce food, implying complete specialization. It basically entails the understanding of complete specialization. This basically talks about the Ricardian understanding of complete specialization. Now, in such a situation, there would be no equalization of factor prices between two countries due to variation in their relative factor endowment. So, in such a case, there will be no equalization of factor prices between two countries. Why so? Because the factor prices, because the relative factor endowments, there is variation in endowment. So now what happens? Thus it is logically follows that factor price equalization occurs only if trading countries are under consideration are almost similar in relative factor endowment. So this incomplete specialization only takes place when the countries are what? There is relative factor endowments similar, when there is similar relative factor endowments. So when there is similar relative factor endowments, so in such a case there will be incomplete specialization, that is both countries will produce both the commodities. To put it from the other side, the factor prices need not be equalized between countries with different ratios of uncleansed labor. So incomplete specialization is an important assumption of factor price equalization. Now we'll go to the next assumption, which says identical technology. So the next assumption basically talks about identical So the next assumption talks about identical technology. So what is identical technology? So we know that is the factor price equalization theorem, which is logical offshoot of factor properties theory of international trade, does not hold if trading nations use different types of production technology. So trading nations must have same or identical technology. Same or identical technology. So, for example, a country with modern sophisticated technology might have a higher wage rate and a higher rental rate than a country with old and obsolete technology. The reason is that as technology improves over time, the productivity of both labor and land increases, since each factor is paid on the basis of its marginal product. So as technology improves, we know what? As technology improves, what happens then? As technology improves, over time the productivity of both labor and land increases. So productivity of both labor and land So as technology improves, the productivity of both labor and land increases. So as a result, what happens is that we know the labor and land are paid according to their marginal productivity. So as they are paid according to their marginal productivity, we know that the wage rate and rental go up when productivity enhancing technology is used. So we know the rent and wage both go up what happens? The technology, it is done because of what? Because of enhancing technology. So for this reason we would know that the another assumption, which is an assumption 2, is that it has to have identical technology. Now the next assumption is talking about the equalization of prices of goods. The third assumption talks about equalization of prices of goods. So here, as you see, equalization of price of goods, which means the hypothesis of complete factor price equalization hold only when there is equalization of the price of traded goods. So it holds only when there is equalization of prices of traded goods. So only when there is equalization of prices of traded goods. So we know that, however, in the real world, prices of goods are not equalized by international trade due to differences in transport cost and government imposed barriers such as import tariffs and import quotas and exchange controls. 3. Thus, factor price equalization will not occur. So, factor price equalization will not occur when these 3 which we talked about: incomplete specialization, so when there is incomplete specialization, it won't occur. Then when there is trading countries had identical, unless trading countries use identical technology, it won't occur. And the last option was what? It was unless there is full equalization in prices of commodities. Full equalization in prices of commodities. So these 4 things are important. These three things are very important. So I hope you guys have understood the basic assumptions of factor price equalization theorem. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you still have any query or doubt, you can simply WhatsApp me on this number, which is 9836, or you can also go to our website, which is www.showroopsersclasses.com. There you will find a lot of other videos like this, and you will also get to see a lot of other materials which are needed for different entrance exam. So thank you for watching this video and have a nice day ahead.